All right, good evening to everyone out there in YouTube land, as well as in Facebook land, as we get ready to start this Bible study tonight. There are just some things that are happening in this country that are very disheartening. I want to, again, thank those of you who are on the teleconference call from Faith. Again, if you want to go to the Zoom apparatus, I can give you that number, uh, those numbers again. Those numbers are 628 786 359. 628 786 359. If you want to watch this on YouTube Live, just go to YouTube, punch in Faith Baptist Church of Oakland, and we will be there. Um, so let's talk about a little bit about, we're going to talk about again about the peacemaker part, right? And I'm walking slowly through this because we're entering a juncture in the American landscape where we have this election that's coming up. We've already been warned by extreme right groups that if they don't get their way, there will be violence. And then extreme left groups like Antifa, if they don't get their way, there will be violence. Proud Boys, what have you. Just really a bad time in America right now. Just really a bad time in America. So, so the real question is, how can we create peace when the alternative is violence? How can we create peace when the alternative is violence? And that just cannot happen. So I'm going to be sharing my screen tonight with you on a bit of a PowerPoint presentation. We'll get through as much of it as we can. I will not be rushing through this PowerPoint. I'll be picking some pieces to talk about. But it's clear to me that America is a country that is most miserable because one of the things that keeps us in conflict with one another is that we're not at peace with ourselves. So we have to continue to struggle on the inside so that we can have some peace on the inside, and that peace can be reflected to others on the outside. I just don't understand the conflict. I don't understand the confrontation. I'm kind of thinking that I think some people are in the wrong profession. I think that they should have tried out for professional football or maybe even professional wrestling, because I say that if you're going to be violent and confrontational, get paid for it. Don't do it for free. I mean, if it means that much to you, don't do it for free. Get paid for it. On last night, again, we noticed in Philadelphia, we saw the killing of another African American male. Apparently, he suffered from mental problems. He was confronted by the Philadelphia police, and he was killed. Excuse me. He was shot 14 times. And there were two officers, and they both unloaded their clips. Fortunately, I am a member of the National Organization of Black Law Executives. So I have some information that is privileged that I cannot share, but I do have some information that I can share. I want us to understand that this particular shooting was just devastating as anything that we've ever seen. It was tragic in every proportion. The young man suffered from mental problems, and unfortunately, most police organizations, they're not equipped to deal with people who have mental health problems. The call actually did not go to the police initially. The call went to a mental health facility. Somehow or another, the police intercepted that call, showed up at the resident. The young man came outside wielding a knife, and they shot him. They unloaded the clip. So there are going to be several things, but I want the African American community to understand that these police may have operated within their jurisdiction, within their specific duties or assignment. There was a case that was cited in California where there was a man who approached police with a gun. They didn't shoot. They held him at bay. However, he ended up throwing the knife, and he did not mortally wound the police officer, but he did wound the police officer pretty good. So since then, if you have a knife and a policeman has a gun, he's not going to just assume that distance makes that safe, especially if you can wield that knife and throw it. So and then you have the rioting, right? And we already know that there are just people that will take advantage of any kind of chaos. They live on it, they breathe on it. If there is no chaos, they have nothing to say. I think there's a saying in the hood that says that some people wouldn't have any life at all if they didn't have any drama in their lives. I don't hear any reports of looting and shooting, any violence tonight, but I want us to understand that whatever the outcome will be with this particular case, that they will probably see in favor of these policemen, and there will be more of an investigation, concerning why the only option that they had was to use a gun, and why the only option that they had was to, unload 14 rounds of bullets into that young man. Again, there were two officers. They both emptied their clips, and it just seems like these days, especially when there's an African American that's involved, it appears that the only way that people know how to solve a problem is by lethal force. I want my brothers and sisters to know that, as long as we continue to kill ourselves in a big way, that, they're going to continue this attitude that they have towards African American men, African American women. And we must be able to work around that. And we have to learn how to value ourselves. One of the things that I hate, is, this, I got to beat you mentality in the Black community. I got to hustle, I out hustle you, or I got to make some money off of you and I'm not even trying to, go to work. I think that the church will play a very important part in this. And I think that the church, has to ultimately step up. So again, I'm going to try this again. I did it not last Sunday, but Sunday before last. I tried to share my screen. And so I'm going to share my screen again. Let me get everything straight before I share my screen, because I want you all to see what we're looking at, what we're doing. And I promise I'm not going to hold you long tonight. But I also promise that I'm not going to waste any of your time. All right. Okay, so I got a couple of screens going actually. And let's see if I can make this transfer to be effective. And if I can make it to be effective, then I think we'll be working with something here. All right. In the interim, I want somebody to, if you're still out there on the phone, I want you just to answer this question. And I asked this question earlier today at Bible study this afternoon. And the question I asked is, why is it that are people so miserable? Why are people so miserable? Can anybody jump on that for me? Does anybody have any insight as to why, you think that people are miserable. Maybe you think that people aren't miserable. Can I get any feedback on that?
Could it be because they don't have a close relationship with the Lord?
Okay. I'll bite on that.
Okay. There you go.
Somebody said that people are miserable with themselves is because of a lack of a prayer life. And I mean, I know I got Al, I got two or know some other people that are out there. Okay. All right.
Lack of faith.
A lack of faith.
Or maybe they can't see themselves in value because of the way that they're living, and they know it's not right, but they think they've done so much wrong that they can't be forgiven or changed.
Okay.
Maybe.
I think that I think you bring out a valuable point when you say, people who have to deal with themselves, right? Because if you do have problems dealing with your past, meaning that, if you cannot forgive yourself for what has, ultimately transpired in your life, you know what I mean? We all make mistakes. Let's be clear about that. We all make mistakes. However, if you ask the Lord to forgive you of your mistakes or to forgive you just period, right? Then what happens is that you have to let that go, because by not letting it go, what you basically do is that you deny the real redeeming power of God to happen in your life. I mean, really think about it, right? The way that we can become whole is by allowing ourselves to become whole, and not part, but whole. There's a lot of violence that's going on in the country today. There's a lot of violence going on in East Oakland, right? So I have one of these PowerPoints up, so I'm going to go ahead and share this one. This is not exactly the one I wanted to share tonight, but it will do. It will do. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me try that again. All right.
Pastor, I think it also has to do with the environment. Also has to do with poverty. With the community that they live in also.
Okay. All right. I'll bite on that. So Zoom is not responding to this share screen tonight. So let me just kind of go with it. And so let's just kind of rehearse some things, once more that need to be rehearsed. Okay. Again, one of the things that when it comes to becoming a peacemaker is, you got to have some peace in your life. And someone suggested that, prayer can help create peace, in your life, right? Meditation, some people call it yoga, they call it whatever they need to call it. But your reality, now why is Zoom not responding? Your reality, well, I'm gonna shut it down. Your reality is that this is the second time this has done this. And begin to find some peace in your life. We talk about the storm. Oh, okay. So all of a sudden, my screen is being shared. We talk about the storms that exist in our lives, and there's a storm going on right now. It is existing in America, and I've never really seen. Here we go. I've never really seen in my lifetime, something so dangerous, that we're dealing with, and a part of that problem has to deal with the leadership that we have that's in the White House. And if you're not at peace with yourself, you're going to love Donald Trump because this guy is all about chaos. This guy is all about confusion. This guy is all about himself. And one of the things that does not help when it comes to integrity is that, when you begin to seek your needs above the needs of everyone else, especially when you're in leadership, there's going to be a drastic drop off in the area of integrity. And I don't want to say that we lack that in the church, but I will go as far to say that we have, integrity issues. In church, we have integrity issues in life. We have integrity issues at home. We have integrity issues with our children. We have integrity issues with our employers. We have integrity issues. But the way that you deal with that is how Jesus shows us, in that, when we seek the highest goal, and the highest goal being service that we render to humanity, then God can do something with us. We can move in an area that gives us life. We can move in an area that gives us hope. We can move in an area that gives us strength. So, it's worth it to me to try to seek peace. And to try to seek it within yourself. Again, you cannot resolve conflict with conflict. And if we take a page from Ken Sande's book, church conflict is neither isolated nor uncommon. Indeed, church pastors, governing boards, and denominational leaders spend a major portion of their time each year assessing, mediating, and reconciling church conflict. To me, is such a waste of time, because I figure, that I'm more than a fireman, right? If all that pastors do is just put out fires, then, what we do is that we neglect the office that God has initially called us to sustain. Jesus said, if you love me, then you feed my sheep. But, how can pastors feed sheep if sheep are always fighting, against one another, or sheep are always morphing into goats? I don't think that we should have time for conflict in church. We should have more time for resolution than we have when it comes to conflict. So I think the church has to wrap their mind around that, and the church has to focus on it. We are the body of Christ. 1 Corinthians 12 and 27, it tells us that we are a part. So I mean, there are no individuals or individual platforms that should or exist, in the church. One of the biggest things that we ought to be is that we ought to be on the we team. And maybe somebody can help me, but do you believe that we are a part of the we team, or are we a part of the me team? I would like to suggest that we can do more than we, and that us can do more than one. So if we buy into the construct that the Apostle Paul says, again, now you are the body of Christ, and each one of you is a part of it. And then he talks about the gifts that God has placed in the church. First of all, apostles, second prophets, third teachers, then miracles, then gifts of healing, of helping, of guidance, and of different kinds of tongues. Are all apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Do all work miracles? Do all have gifts of healing? Do all speak in tongues? Do all interpret? Now eagerly desire the greater gifts. And then Paul says, love is indispensable, and yet I will show you the most excellent way. Meaning that in spite of all that we think that we are gifted to do and gifted to have and gifted to see and say, the most important gift that we bring to the body of Christ is the gift of love. And we so earnestly need to engage in that. And am I guilty? Yeah, I think I am guilty. Because when things don't go the way that I think that they should go, my attitude begins to change. However, what I need to understand is that we're all a work in progress. I'm a work in progress as well as you are a work in progress. And as long as we understand that, then what we are able to do is that we're able to find a way to keep the peace. Conflict reveals the true character of a leader. Now, one of the great things I believe is happening in this country, honestly, is that we're getting ready to vote on a new president. And if all things are equal, I believe that under the leadership of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that the first thing that will be handled is going to be this pandemic. Conflict reveals the true character of a leader. This is what it says in Matthew chapter 5, verse 43. Verse 43. It says, you have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect, or be excellent, even though as your heavenly Father is excellent. I do believe deeply in my heart that this is one of the things that plagues church growth. Because here is the challenge. Is it easier to love someone that loves you? Or is it easier to love someone who does not love you? I think that the latter is true. It is not easy to love people who don't love you. However, this is what the text requires, And this is what Jesus is saying in the Beatitudes, that, we have to, learn how to love people who may not love us back. In the proposition of church growth, right? And I think I've said this over and over, and that is that one of the big drop-offs in church is not that the message of Jesus has changed, because he is still the same yesterday, today, and he will be forevermore. But I think it's in our attitude towards those who are unchurched. And I would like to maintain, very specifically that, coming out of this pandemic, when the Lord allows us to open up fully again, whenever that will be, our challenge is going to be, are our hearts open to people that we don't really know? And that's what church is for. So let me give you an example of what we're looking at, right? I did some research today, and what I found was that, and I asked the question, should a church be culturally specific, right? And the reason I asked that question is because, I have a master's of arts in nonprofit management, an MA in nonprofit management. One of the classes I took was a leadership class. Another class I took was a church growth class. And in the church growth class, there was a certain church in Kentucky by the name of Southeast Church. And this church has 13 campuses throughout the state of Kentucky. And that's a lot. The church has about 25,000 members, and the church has about 13 campuses. So I went to the church's website. I went through every church and looked at their leadership. And the reason I asked the question, should the church be culturally specific, is, first of all, this person wrote a book about church growth, and he isolated a portion of his book on this church in Kentucky called Southeast. And I'm looking at their website. I see images of people. I see images of colored people. I see images of white people. I see black people. I see brown people on the images of what they want to serve, right? But when I looked at their leadership platform, there was no one of color on their leadership platform whatsoever, except for one person who was the pastor of multinational growth, and his specific assignment was to minister to African people who were immigrants. To me, that was not a great representation. It was not a book that spreaded its wings when it came to church growth, because it was clear to me, and I'll say it right here on YouTube Live, that they only want to minister really to white folks. So I'm trying to, I'm going through the book again, but I got to put an urban spin on this book. And I got to write the author of the book, and I got to send an email to the pastor of that church or whoever, to say that it appears to me that what you want to do is you want to lead in the area of religious nationalism, because clearly there has to be more than 25,000 people in the state of Kentucky, and there has to be more than just African immigrants that you can minister to. Let's keep in mind, Breonna Taylor was killed in the state of Kentucky, and I'm pretty interested to know what what their statement is concerning that, since they're such an influential church. So that's the question I asked. I said, should the church be culturally specific? So I began to drill down on some numbers in Oakland. Oakland has 435,000 people and change in it. And of Oakland's population, 23.6% of that population are Black people. which is down from 2000, about 25%. And that puts Oakland's numbers at about 102,756 African Americans in the city. Oakland is the eighth largest city in the state, and Oakland is the 46th largest city nationally. I went to Pew Research to look at church attendance. And so within the entire state of Oakland, 49% of the people say that they attend church or say that they believe in God. 31% say that they attend church on a weekly basis. So when you look at that number to be culturally specific, I drill down to a number that says that there are about 71,000 Black people in Oakland that are unchurched. So what do we say about that? I mean, how hard is our job? When you look at the size of our sanctuary, I'm talking about people at faith. You look at the size of our sanctuary, it is a pittance to the 71,000 that are unchurched. And I just certainly believe that we should be able, with an effective message, be able to, bring faith to a point where we are maximizing our potential and we're being the church that we're supposed to be. However, I'm trying to wonder and ask that question, like, what is holding us back? Why are we not as effective as church growth as other churches are? And I think that one of the reasons is revealed in this text, right? We have love issues like other churches, and we have conflict issues like other churches. And I'm not sitting here, trying to actually look at the same people every Sunday, every year. To me, that's not church growth. And if you think that's church growth and you think that your church is growing, then chances are, if your church is not growing, and I said this before, you may be not growing. If your church is not growing, maybe you're not growing. I'm showing this slide right now, is that, we have to love our enemies. We have to love the unlovable. Church will never be the same ever again. And if we think that, church in 2021 will look like the church of 2019, we're rather disillusioned because the church of 2021, unless we get this pandemic under control or allow ourselves to listen to the science and quit listening to this president, the church of 2021 may again look much like the church of 2020. There is no vaccine in sight until maybe sometime mid-year. I was talking to someone today, and it's kind of interesting, right? He was talking about, now hear me, a church. I'm not going to say what city it's in because you might know it, but I'll just leave it like that. But it's in the Bay Area. This particular church has not closed their doors since this pandemic has happened. It has not closed its doors, but it has not grown either. The same few people that came there when they were open are the same few people that are there right now. So when things change, the real question is, will this church change? This church hasn't changed yet. And will it change later? So, what kind of impact we want to have when we open the doors? I say that the impact, and I want you to hear me on this, that the impact that we have is that we should be a more loving church. We should be more loving. However, if you don't love yourself, then you're going to have real problems when it comes to loving other people. We live in such a violent culture. People need to have spaces where they can have peace. This means that a church in constant conflict is a church that is not kingdom-based, servant-oriented, and most importantly, it is a church that will never have the kind of influence that it needs to have in a community. When we submit to the word of God, we will have the kind of peace in our lives that no one will ever be able to disturb. No one will ever be able to disturb. Like for instance, I'm not picking and I'm not messing, right? But I have people that probably have a desire to lead. They want to be leaders. And I don't know sometimes why they want to be leaders if I can't get them to Bible study, or if I can't get them on the prayer line. And when I put up resistance against what their intentions are, they have a problem understanding me, right? Just like right now, watch me. I talked to someone today, and they want to be in leadership. But guess what? They're not on this call. They missed the prayer call this morning. And I'm trying to figure out, what do I need to do with that? However, they are quick to start propaganda in church. And then others, watch me now, because they have issues with pastors, are just quick to jump on their side, not because they think that the person is right. But they have issues and they want to come in constant conflict with the pastor for whatever reason. I remember Sister Bridgewater used to tell me that people have what she calls misplaced or displaced anger. And she wanted to explain that to me because, her reckoning was that, people are mad at God. And since you're God's representative, you're the closest thing to reflect the anger that they will have. So, Pastor, she said, don't take it personal. Just kind of get over it, but understand, people have what they call displaced aggression. Now, much can be learned about conflict. It is not a mystery, even though it feels like it sometimes, right? So as we review and we get ready to, as we get ready to review this, and again, this is not new for you, Faith, but it may be new for other people, right? What are the steps towards resolving conflict in ourselves and in the church? Anybody want to take a stab at that? Anybody look at some notes that they want to take a stab at? All right, so the question that was asked was, what are the steps towards resolving conflict in ourselves and the church, and as well as our community? What are the steps? So here's one of the steps, and think about this. And I want you to think about it, and I want you to answer it. And that is, if you spend time on glorifying God, do you believe that you have time for conflict? I got two no's. Hello? I got two no's, so I'll say it again. Your silence, is a reality. Now ask the question again. If you spend most of your time trying to glorify God, how much time do you have at being in conflict with yourself and with other people? 1 Corinthians 10:31 says this. So then, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all to the glory of our great God, which means that biblical peacemaking is motivated and guided by a deep desire to bring honor to God by revealing the reconciling love and power of Jesus Christ. Which means that you can have a bad day, which we do sometimes. We have bad days. However, if you focus on the reconciling love and power of Jesus Christ, you can take that day and turn it into a good day. You know, haven't you ever had a good day before? Is it anybody even had a good day lately? You know, where it's peaceful, right? Like I had a good day on Monday, right? You know, and Mondays are typically days where I like to get things done, right? I like to bring some resolution in my life to get my week started. And I love when I have to clean up, turn on my music, I turn on my jazz, right? You know, if it's a sunny day, I open the windows or open the shades and I start cleaning up. And, you know, people typically don't call me on Mondays, although some people do, right? But it's a good day, you know, and, you know, it is a day, you know, that I'm willing to give all the glory to God and like thanking him for even allowing me to have a clean house, you know, and to be able to do these things by myself. And that's just me. I may not even be making any sense to anybody right now. But to me, it is a valid question because, you know, I mean, this is East Oakland, you know, and we need to understand what's going on, you know, and again, some people go to bed with conflict and then wake up with conflict, you know, but I just need to know, you know, are people at peace with themselves? And because if you are at peace with yourself, it will show. All right. So again, we must glorify God. Does anyone remember number 2? That's number 6. But you're in the house. You're in the house. I'm loving that because it's telling me that you're paying attention. Get the log out of your eye. That's it. Get the log out of your eye. And I just need to know, is there anybody out there that's interested in getting the log out of their eye? Or are you so intent on looking at the log in other people's eye that you're just going to ignore what I'm just suggesting? So what Jesus says in Matthew 7:5 is this. He says, you hypocrite, you play actor pretender. First, get the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Get the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Attacking others only invites counterattacks. This is why Jesus teaches us to face up to our own contributions to a conflict before we focus on what others have done. So it's really saying before you get mad at somebody else, you need to evaluate, you know, and see if there's anything that you have done that gave life and breath to that conflict. Even now, you know, we rehearse things in our head before we do them. And, you know, I even find myself saying, like, you know what? I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. And this is how it's going to work. You start playing that tape in your mind. And so it's like, okay, when I see him, I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. Well, maybe I'm the only person that does that. Or maybe I'm the only person that has conflicting moments with other people, right? But, you know, again, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Attacking others only invites counterattacks. Community, you know, right now I'm sad, you know, because there's a young man in Richmond that got killed last week. I was talking to my brother today. He's a member of the family, and you know, they had his viewing today. But I'm just so afraid that the young man that is guilty of this crime is still walking the streets of Richmond, and they know who did it. They know exactly who did it. And, no one is going to turn him into the police unless he turns himself in. So do you know what's going to happen? They're sending a clear signal that we don't want the legal system to create justice for this man. This will be street justice. Now, I could probably expect the hood to react in such a way, but I'm certainly not expecting for the church to react in such a way. And I want us to understand and know that if we are going to be a church that's going to grow, then we have to understand that, in the midst of a pandemic, coming in and out of a pandemic, I certainly believe that people want a place where they can get peace in their lives, especially in the midst of all this chaos. All right. And here's the one of my favorite slides on that. Again, where the guy goes, "Oh my God, dude, what is that in your eye?" While there's a tree lodged in his eye, and he's profusely bleeding on the ground. So we just need to get a grip on ourselves with that. Okay. Allie, you said gently restored. This is what we should do.
Yeah.
Gently restore. And I try to do this as much as possible, right? As my wife would say to me, sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it, honey. Right? And that's very, very true. But Galatians 6:1 says, brothers, if anyone is caught in any sin, you who are spiritual, that is, you who are responsive to the guidance of the Spirit, are to restore such a person in a spirit of gentleness, not with a sense of superiority or self-righteousness, keeping a watchful eye on yourself so that you are not tempted as well. That's Galatians 6:1. Meaning that, if you do catch someone, right, what you do is you should respond to that person, in such a way that it gives them the liberty to respond back so that you can gently restore. When others fail to see their contributions to a conflict, we sometimes need to graciously show them their fault, encourage repentance, and restore peace. You pull them over to the side and say, hey, look, I just want you to understand and know that your anger is not going to help us to get through this chaos. And I think that if you would take it down a notch or two, that you will begin to understand where it is, not only where you went wrong, but you can show the other person where they went wrong, and then you could bring these things back together. Again, people who want to remain in chaos, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You must learn how to gently restore it. And then it says, go and be reconciled. So intent was Jesus on this particular suggestion here. He says, leave your offering, Matthew 5:24. He says, leave your offering there at the altar and go. First make peace with your brother and then come and present your offering. That's Matthew 5:24. When we forgive others as Jesus has forgiven us and seek solutions that satisfy others' interests as well as our own, the debris of conflict is cleared away and the door is opened for genuine peace. When we forgive others as Jesus has forgiven us. And I think that's what's really important. Do you think that this is fair to not recognize that we have been forgiven? Do you think that it's fair for us to recognize that we have not been forgiven? I used to, I took a different turn when it came to disciplining my children in certain areas, because, when I thought about myself, right, it made me take a different spin on it. because somebody forgave me and I needed to recompense that forgiveness. Somebody gave me a second opportunity and I needed to give somebody else a second opportunity. So, and you can't, let me say this too. I think another reason that Jesus says this is that, there are just some things that money just will not replace. And one of the things that money will never replace is love. You could, I guess some people can be bought, but I think that it's very weak to value yourself to the point where, you can go to the highest bidder, right? I think that what Jesus is telling us is that, hey, look, I know you want to show off with your offering, right? But before you show off with your offering, if you have an ought with your brother, leave your offering and go first make peace with your brother and then come and present your offering, which means that even if you come to the table of the Lord with an offering with malice in your heart, Jesus is saying, look, you need to leave that money somewhere else, or you need to leave that offering somewhere else, because the malice that's in your heart is not covering up what you're trying to do. So, leave it alone, first make peace with your brother and then come and present your offering to the Lord. And then we show the symbol of two people reconciling themselves and embracing. We can't do this right now, right? We have to social distance, right? But, we have to understand that, there is a way for us to get along with each other. And that's really what I'm trying to stress, and I'm hoping today that I'm talking to people who want to get along with other people, right? Colossians chapter 3, verses 1 and 2 says, therefore, if you have been raised with Christ to a new life, sharing in his resurrection from the dead, keep seeking the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. This is very important. Set your mind and keep focused habitually on the things above, the heavenly things, not on things that are on earth, which have only temporal value. I think that what Jesus is saying is that take your mind out the gutter. Focus on integrity. Focus on righteousness. Focus on justice. Focus on spiritual equilibrium and mental equilibrium. Try to keep your mind there. And I say it in such a way because the thing, haven't you noticed that the things that you concentrate on mostly are the things that you achieve? So if you focus on misery, what you get in return is exactly that. If you're an alcoholic, right? What are you thinking about when you get up? Everything that you do is driven towards where your mind is focused, which is on that drink. Or if it's dope, right? Or if it's shopping. Right? It could be almost anything, right? You're on a budget. You're always $1 short and a day late. However, when it comes to sales, you're the first one at the store. You're the first one on Amazon Prime, trying to get your goods and services. So, if it's education that you want to accomplish, set your mind there. If it's health that you want to accomplish, set your mind there and keep focused on it. If you need to get well, stay in that ballpark. Keep focused on it. If there is a promotion that you want at work, set your mind there. Keep focused on it. Because where you spend time in your mind is where you will achieve. is where you will be. So if you want to set your mind on things that are not virtuous, then what will happen is that virtue will not be a part of your end result. You will always continuously disappoint yourself. But if you set your mind, on things that are above, that things that are virtuous, things that assist and help other people, that's exactly where you will end up. All right. So as we get ready to close out, Proverbs chapter 10, verse 12 says that hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses. Again, what we'll do is that, again, we'll pick up next week on this. And, again, what I'm trying to do and stress is that I'm trying to create a message that not only reaches us, but it reaches people who may chime in on what we're trying to do and on what we're trying to accomplish. So again, I want to thank you for participating with us tonight, on this Bible study at the Faith Church. Again, if you have any questions about what we're doing, you can reach out to me here on our website at fbcoak.org, where we have an info button and you can reach there with any other questions. But other than that, again, I want to thank you for being with us tonight, on this Bible study. Thank you again for those at the Faith Church who are participating. And thank you for those on YouTube who participated. So again, God bless you. Have a great evening. And again, let's keep our minds on peaceful matters and let us be at peace with one another.